it's Miss Wade. I'm here to talk to you guys today about log properties. So if you guys could get out some notes and follow along, that would be really great. So here are some basic properties that you guys need to know about for this chapter. So the first one is the product property. And it basically says that if you have log base B of a product, whatever they are, you can basically split it up by taking log of the first piece of that plus log of the second piece. Okay, the next one is the quotient property. You should all be writing this down, please. And what that one states is that if you have a quotient, and this should remind you a little bit about exponents actually. Whenever you're dividing exponents, what do? You subtract the exponents, right? When you're dividing powers. So when you're dividing the logs, it's kind of similar. It should kind of remind you of that a little bit. The next main one is called the power property. Should be writing these down, please. And what this one states is that if I have log base B of a power, you take this exponent and bring it down in front. Okay? So these are the main properties that we're going to use today and practice doing two things, expanding and condensing. Okay? So with these properties, like I just said, you can either expand or condense. So the first thing we're going to talk about is expanding. So I'm going to move this up. So hopefully you guys have those copied down. So expand is the first thing we're going to learn to do today. So when you expand it, you're going to basically go from this left side of the property to the right side, where you write it out in a longer form. So we're going to start off with kind of a basic example. Okay, so I have log of 3 times r to the 4th. So the first thing you want to do is check to see, is there multiplication? Is there division? I would do those first. And yeah, I have multiplication. So I'm going to use the product property to go ahead and split this up into log of 3. These are log base 10, by the way, because there's no base there. It's a common log. I think you learned about that in a different video or in class. So now I have this written out. The next thing you need to check to see, you've already dealt with if there's a quotient or a product. The next thing you need to ask yourself is there a power? And yes, there is right there. So this 4 comes down in front. That's how you use the power property. So it's a nice little coefficient here. And then sometimes people get confused if they're finished or not. So if you have no multiplication, division, or powers left, then basically you're done. You've expanded it as much as you can, and that's the answer. Okay? Let's try a couple more before we move on to condense. The next one that I want to expand, and you should be writing this down, is this one. Now, if you think you kind of got this, this might be a nice place in the video to pause and try to solve this on your own without looking at what I did. But if you would like to see one more example before trying one on your own, that's totally fine. So the first thing I need to ask myself is there multiplication and is there division? And yes, there is. So I'm going to do the division first. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to take the top, which is the m like in the property that we learned above, minus log of the bottom. So log of the top minus log of the bottom. So in this example, I'm going to have log of the numerator, the top part of my fraction, minus log of the denominator, the bottom part of my fraction. Okay? So I took care of the division, so now I need to take care of the multiplication. Okay? So here is multiplication. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to split it up. With multiplication, you add log of both of those terms. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I have log base b of 2 plus log base b of x cubed minus log base b of the square root of y. I'm going to rewrite this as a power because you're going to have to deal with that later. So if you remember, the square root of y is the same thing as y to the 1/2. So now I'm almost done. I've dealt with any multiplication, any division. That's great. The last thing I need to check to see is, do I have any powers? And yes, I do. I have 2 of them. So what you do with the powers is you bring them in front, okay, as coefficients. So I have log base b of 2 plus 3 log base b of x minus 1/2 log base b of y. And that is your final answer for expanding that log. I have one more. Now that you've seen 2 examples, if you did not pause it for number 2, I highly recommend you pause this for number 3 and try this on your own. It's really important that you try to do one of these on your own. So please pause right now and try to do that one on your own. Hi, I'm assuming you paused, so now I'm going to go over how to do this. So like I said before, you want to check to see if there's multiplication or division first. And there it is, there's division. So I'm going to do log of the numerator minus log of the denominator. Okay? Then you want to check to see if there is multiplication next. And there is, right there. Obviously there's multiplication here, but it's inside a power, so I'm going to do the power first and then deal with that. So I'm going to ignore that for now and just deal with this guy. So log base 3 of x cubed plus log base 3 of the cube root of y minus log base 3 of 2z, the quantity squared. Now, this guy can be written as a power. So I'm kind of showing a little bit more work than you would probably show, but that's okay. Okay, I'm going to leave this guy. So now I have powers here that I have to deal with, right? I have one there, and one there in each term. So I'm going to bring them in front. Hopefully you guys did this right when you tried it on your own. There's different ways you could have done it. If you had distributed that exponent, that is not wrong. So, like I said, lots of different solutions. So as long as in the end you get something kind of similar, then that's really good. All right, that guy is fine. So is that one. This one is not okay because as you can see, you have multiplication. If you have multiplication, division, or a power left on your final answer, you are not finished, okay? So I'm going to split that guy up. These all stay the same. Good job. Hopefully you guys got this. So in here, I'm going to take log base 3 of 2 plus log base 3 of z. And I'm okay with it like this. If this bothers you, you could also distribute this. And if you did that, I think it's unnecessary really, but if you did that, you are correct. You could distribute that too and basically get this. That is also fine, but you're okay here. You don't need to do any more. So those are your examples for expanding. So the next thing we want to talk about is condensing. So that is basically just going the other way. So I'm going to instead give you a long expression with a ton of logs, and you have to work backwards to get to the single expression with logs. So let's go over an example with that, and then you guys can try some on your own. Just as in expand, I'm just going to do 3. So the first one, you can kind of watch and write it down, follow along. And then if you think you got it, please pause before the next one. Try it, check, and then do it again. The more you try it on your own, the better you're going to get at it. So try to resist the urge to just sit and watch me do these. All right, so this one is the opposite of the last. So the last one, we check to see if there's multiplication or division first, and then a power. So going in the other direction, you first want to check to see, are there any powers? So remember, the power rule means that whatever the exponent was is now in front. So we want to go backwards and put all those dudes back up there where they belong. So when I rewrite this, and have a bunch of powers. Okay, so now I have written them as powers. The next thing you want to check for is multiplication and division. So before you dealt with division first, then multiplication. In this case, you're going to do multiplication first and then division. So the plus means you're going to have multiplication. So I'm going to have log of x to the 5/3 times y to the 6th. And once you get good at these, you don't have to show every single little step. That's fine. And then the minus basically means division. So now finally, for my final answer, I'm going to have the numerator divided by the denominator. And this is great. If you want to be a superstar, you could change x to the 5/3 to the cube root of x to the 5th. I mean, this is a pre-calc level class, right? So I think you guys can handle that. So let's try to be a little bit more advanced in that and use our fractional exponent know-how to really have a nice final answer. So that's the final answer for number 1. I have a second example for you. If I were you, after you see it, in just a sec when I write it down, I would pause, try it on your own, and then come back and double check to see if you did it right. Okay. A minus is basically a division, right? So you're going to take log of the top divided by the bottom. In this case, there's not much more to do as far as using your properties. Now you just have to use a little something called algebra, where to simplify this, you guys remember this is a difference of squares, which you guys are all so good at factoring. That cancels. So my final condensed answer is log of x plus 2. And remember, I keep forgetting to remind you, but this is the same thing as log base 10. Just an FYI in case you are forgetting that or wondering what the heck the base is. All right, this is the last example in this video. So you guys are going to try this one on your own now. Okay, so copy that down. Go ahead and pause the video and give it a try, and then come back and rejoin. Hopefully you've paused. So let's go over this. Do you guys realize that this is just like a fraction in front, right? Which basically tells us it's a power. So log base b of x to the 3/5 plus log base b of y to the 2/3. And then I have a plus, which basically means I'm going to multiply. So log base b of this guy and this guy. Not too bad. And like I said, it'd be really nice for you to use your fractional exponent know-how. And don't be lazy, be smart, and impress us with this final answer. Thanks for joining me, and stay tuned for the next video. Thank you.